No, I'm not going to read this. Hey, everybody. This is the hottest commodity in pro wrestling, the manager's manager, the maker of mayhem, the bringer of boom, the wager of war, the instigator of illuminating truth, and as of recently, the collector of champions. And you're watching a Hashtag Truth with Scott Larson. Now, get out of here.
Watch it all fall down around you now. Was it ever really worth it? Having your kingdom crumble to the ground because you never had the courage. Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up.
This is 4-Foot Batman. And 4-Foot Batman knows the home of great collectibles at awesome prices, retro toys and collectibles, movie memorabilia, Magic the Gathering cards, wrestling figures, Hot Wheels, the always popular Funko Pops, and much, much more. He knows the Hall of Collectibles is located in downtown Cherryville, North Carolina, at 400 East Main Street. Give them a call today, 980-989-5181. Retro Toys and Collectibles, the heavyweight champion in collecting.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hashtag Truth. Tonight we have the one, the only Jonathan Darwin. How you doing tonight, man?
Great, Scott. I'm glad we were able to finally work out our schedules because we tried to do this a couple of times and we just couldn't make it work.
Oh yeah, it's busy over here. I've got a lot of things going on in the family. I've got a lot of things going on. A lot of new faces want to be on Hashtag Truth, and I'm so excited about that, man.
Yeah, I commend you for that. And I've seen some of the guests. I know that I actually know Gen Z and Steel that are going to be your guests on Wednesday night.
Yep.
And if I remember correctly, you said you're booked to the rest of the year?
No, I'm booked till November 22nd. I was going to take the whole holiday season off, but then my wife looked at me and said, Scott, there's like a week and a half between, Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I decided to just take Thanksgiving off, and we're going to do a few shows between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Oh, then I'll definitely have to tune in.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. So tell everybody exactly who Jonathan Darwin is.
All right, so Jonathan Darwin is an on-air talent for multiple wrestling promotions. I'm known by the moniker The Voice of Tradition. I've been doing this for about 15 years, give or take. I had to take a couple of years off because I was sick, and we can get into that story if we have time. I've been a ring announcer. I've been an interviewer. I've been a host. I've been a commentator. And I've been on, 2 different television markets. I've been on YouTube, at least in 7 different YouTube channels that we're going to talk about tonight, 6 or 7 YouTube channels.
Nice.
And I hope it's not stepping on toes. I actually just did another podcast. I wanted yours to be first, but they had a last minute cancellation.
Hey, you do. I am never upset if you're on a wrestling podcast. I love everybody.
Yeah. So if everybody wants to go check out their podcast streaming way or YouTube, Wrestling Nostalgia with Dave Dynasty, that just actually dropped today. So that's a good one.
Check it out. Do you know exactly their website so people can go see them?
Well, it's not a website so much. I know, like, if you put in Wrestling Nostalgia and Dave Dynasty into YouTube, you'll find the channel, and mine will be the first one up. And then as far as podcasting goes, it's just whatever podcast app. Like, I have an iPhone, so I use the built-in podcasting app, and you can search for Wrestling Nostalgia. So
sounds like good, man. We've already got people talking. Bruce said Jonathan Darwin, never heard of her.
Okay.
Then he said just picking.
Okay.
Nancy said hashtag hello.
Hello.
Alexander, a good friend of mine, said, what's up? What's up, Alex? Welcome to Hashtag Truth. I'm speaking here with Jonathan Darwin. And so how many years have you been doing this? I think you just said it, but
I want to say approximately 15. If you don't count the year and a half I took off, which ended up in needing open heart surgery, which I really don't, because everybody knew I was on medical hiatus. It's not like I didn't want to be making towns. It was like the doctor's like, we need to take care of this and this first
Right.
So I count those years as like I was active because I was still on social media.
I know about health stuff, man. You ain't got to explain to me. I got a pharmacy sitting right in front of me. So
So yeah, I've probably been doing this since about 2009, I would say. And so yeah,
so
for 12 years.
what made you how did it happen? How did you become the voice? How did you get into the wrestling business?
By accident.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm originally from the Youngstown, Ohio area, famous for
Okay.
Ed O'Neill of all people, along with many others. And I relocated to Southern West Virginia for an opportunity in education. And when I moved here, I mean, I didn't know anybody, but I seen on the local Fox affiliate Sundays at 11 a.m. they had a show called Mountain State Wrestling. So I went and
Right.
checked a couple of them out, and then somebody else was running the Fayetteville Armory, which was in my town. I went to the event, and the ring announcer was somebody who was on ring crew, who was not professionally dressed and was holding that microphone. You know, you hear sometimes where they. So I talked to one of the talents that was at the merchandise stand. I said, "How do I get a hold of the promoter? Who is he?" And she gave me the information. I emailed him, and I talked about my background in speech and college television and public affairs, and the reply was 2 words: "Call me." And
You know it's good when it's call me.
yeah, it was "Call me." It was a number. I worked a couple of shows for a gentleman by the name of Brian Logan.
Okay.
Brian was trying to get a regular show in Somersville that didn't work out, unfortunately. So I was spinning my wheels there. Fast forward about 6 months later, I had made friends with people going to different venues, and this is where John.
So you just went from show to show to show talking to people.
Yeah, well, that's how you really start. It's like show up with a bag and be willing to do anything.
That's
Like,
it.
Yeah, like
That's what a wrestler should do. Even if a wrestler comes to watch a show, you always have your bag in the car.
Oh yeah,
you never know.
Yeah, I was dressed. I went to an event in Norfolk, West Virginia, or not West Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia, for Ring of Honor, on the chance that I might be able to network. And I was dressed in a shirt and tie, just like I am now. I got there a little late because I didn't realize how heavy traffic would be in Norfolk. And I helped with the finishing of setting up in the ring. And a bunch of the helpers were sitting like in the VIP seats, and they all got kicked out. Luckily, I was hiding in the back, not intentionally, but just there. And I got to really witness things. I didn't get picked up that night or talked to by anybody, but I got to shake Cody Rhodes' hand. We just walked by each other, and it wasn't one of those, oh my God, fan moments. It was like, hey, I'm Cody. And I just was going outside to my car to get something. So sometimes it's just about showing up. And that's what actually happened when I got booked for Mountain State Wrestling for the first time. So fast forward, a friend of mine came down, and she and I were watching Mountain State Wrestling, and Mountain State Wrestling happened to be doing a meet and greet in a local grocery store where they were trying to raise money and for ticket sales and so on and so forth.
Right.
And we went, and there were 2 people there. One was Damon Wright, and one was the other person who vouched for me that helped get me on the event that evening, which was a former WCW superstar.
Wow.
More about that later. So we end up, because I want to tease, if we go to commercial.
Got to.
But he ends up talking to me. He goes, you know what? I just feel something with you. Bring a suit. And I end up ring announcing in Mount Hope, West Virginia, thanks to Stro, the maestro of wrestling.
Oh, I love Stro. Stro's a great guy. I've interviewed him.
Yeah, Stro's an excellent North Carolinian. I know he's got a couple multiple shows himself. He's got a lot going on his IMDb page. And I'm really touched by this. I asked him recently, because I'm starting to send out my resume to 3-letter corporations, and he said, yes, I'd be happy to be your reference. So even years later, when we haven't worked together in, my gosh, probably 6-7 years now, but we still keep in contact.
He's a good guy. Once he says you're his friend, you're his friend. That's it. He's going to help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I end up doing ring announcing for that show. It was a tryout, so I didn't get paid, but that's okay. Sometimes that happens. And they gave me the schedule for the rest of the month, and they said, okay. So I show up at the next show, and I get there, and I'm like ready to ring announce, and they're like, yeah, the play-by-play guy quit 2 days ago. Congratulations, you've just been promoted.
Okay. That's the way to do it.
Never called a match. Never
Mr.
called a
Man
match.
on the spot, right?
Yeah, timing. That's what.
Yep.
I was talking with Nick, or not talking with. I got a video from Nick Aldis, which will talk about how that was probably the most wisest investment I made in my career recently. And he said a lot of it is timing. It's not because we don't like you. It's not because you're not good. We just don't have that spot.
Right.
And with Mountain State Wrestling, they happen to have that spot. And I end up at the desk. Now, I also ended up in a quasi wrestling match that evening. Okay, so here's what happened. Mountain State Wrestling had this championship called the Loser Weight Championship,
Okay.
where if you lost the match, you were the champion. So the only way to drop the title was to win the match.
Okay. I got you.
So it's kind of a reverse championship, and it was on a guy, Night Prowler #1, and they's like, well, we wanted him to like go against the announcer, and so they put me in the ring before the event. It's like, hey, can you do this? And I tried to learn to like take a bump and this and
Take
that.
a
And
bump and fall. Right.
Oh, it was abysmal. So they're like, okay, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Crap. All right. So Stroh came up with the idea, and as I'm in there with the Night Prowler and getting ready to lock up, Stroh's on the outside breaking off pieces of a hot dog and just tossing them at the guy. He gets the guy to go out of the ring and gets counted out. So he loses the match, which means he keeps the championship. Now, here's the other problem with that match. I didn't have a name yet.
Oh no.
Which is like how it always works out for a lot of talents that we've heard stories like, hey, you're wrestling tonight. What's your name? So we weren't going to use my legal name because of working in public education. That was
Right.
allowed. So we settled on Jonathan. And at the time I had my hair cut a certain way and I was like not as heavy as I am now.
Right.
And everybody said, oh, you look like Joey. You look like Joey Styles. And that's how Jonathan Styles was born.
Okay. Okay.
So I was Jonathan Styles for probably the first 3 or 4 years of my career.
Okay.
And then
not a bad guy to be named after, by the way.
No, not at all.
One of my favorite wrestling commentators.
An excellent single man commentator. I still study him because of the dramatic pause and such.
Oh man. And when he gets excited, my goodness. I mean, the voice changes is
and you know what? I actually have that nuance. I don't know if you've watched any of my stuff yet, but you will see that fluctuation from calm to like,
right.
Which is the neat engagement you need.
And I love that. I love that in a commentator because that proves to me that you're a fan also. If you get excited when the action is hot and heavy, that's, and again, I've seen old school announcers, stay the same, monotone the whole way through the match, no matter what's going on. And that's cool too. But my favorite is always the announcers that get, Joey Styles, I always said in the, my big saying is, he could probably get up in the morning and do a promo on a coffee cup and make that seem like the most amazing coffee cup ever.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm surprised that he's not anywhere. I hope he's happy with what he's doing.
Right.
So anyway, I ended up being Jonathan Styles, and I was sticking with that. And apparently, I didn't know this until like a couple of years later. There was some good natured ribbing over that, like, oh, well, look at the name he picked. He's such a mark, and all this and that. And
you know what? That's
quasi-hazing.
Whatever, dude. But I'm working. I would have looked at him and said, "But I'm working."
Yeah, I'm calling your match. You might not want to make fun of me. I might not end up doing something that you need to be doing. Excuse me for just a second.
Oh, you good? We got some more people phoning in. Nancy Nelson, we love you, Scott. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in to Hashtag Truth. Luke Childers said, hello, Scott. What's going on, Luke? Love you, buddy. He wants to know, who is your favorite wrestler to announce?
Okay, so that's like saying who's your favorite child.
Kind of.
Yeah, because you like them all for different reasons. If I can't pick one, so I already know that off the bat. I cannot pick one that I enjoy calling their matches.
Well, let's ask this: what do you have your favorite match that you've ever called?
I have 3.
Okay, well there you go.
Because here's why.
I've called some matches and I have won, and the poster is right here. The main
Right.
event of this show. This was my favorite show that I ever attended, and I got to call it, and it was beautiful. But go ahead. You have
Okay,
three.
so the reason I have 3 matches is one's a 2-man match, one is a solo commentary that I did, and the other was a 3-man match.
Okay.
So, but anyway, I'll answer the other question. I would say off the top of my head, Jason Kincaid, Damian
Okay.
Wayne,
Damian Wayne, nice.
Caribbean Tiger. I got to call Damian Wayne's first AIWF World Championship win in Princeton, West Virginia.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a really bittersweet day, though, because I was in Southern West Virginia and my family was all at the VA Brecksville Medical Center in Cleveland, Ohio, and had a decision to make because my father's surgery didn't go as planned. And the doctor's like, look,
Oh, no.
if you go past this point, he's going to be in pain.
Oh,
Because they tried to reverse, don't mean to go too aggressive, they tried to reverse a colostomy bag and it didn't take.
oh
So he
no.
just got, yeah.
Never like to hear about that. I hope that all came out good. It didn't. I'm sorry, bro.
No, he passed about an hour later. So,
Oh man.
so that's why it was a bittersweet.
You had a
night.
good night and a bad traumatic night at the same time.
Yeah, and here's the other thing I got to say about that night of why it was a good night. And the promoters did not have to do this. Rick Diesel and Tim, I'm blanking on the last name now. Dolan came to me and pulled me aside, and they were trying to talk to me, but guys kept coming up, and they didn't realize that they needed to talk to me privately. And it was one of those things, and they said, "Look, we're going to do the 10-bell salute for your dad."
Wow.
And by that time, I had changed my name to Jonathan Darwin, which my dad loved because Darwin was his middle name.
Nice.
Said, "Look, yeah, so
it's kind of in honor of your dad. That's awesome, dude. And I love a story like that. That is cool.
Yeah, he got a rise out of that one. He didn't show much emotion, but especially for the stuff I did, but he got a rise out of that one. So they did the 10-bell salute. A lot of talent came out, and they ended up saying, "Hey, do you want to say something?" And then I cut a nice little promo. And then things turned a little ugly after the second promo of the night because the former, and I won't say his name because I don't want to mention him, but he was the second promo. He was the current AIWF World Champion. He's like, "Damian Wayne, I'm going to bury you tonight."
Uh-oh. Yeah.
I cut the biggest shoot promo of my life to the point where the sound guy's like, "I had to play your music." It was that impassioned.
Oh, wow.
And Tim, when Damian won, Tim's like, "No, you presented the belt." And Damian, I got to present the belt. So I love Damian Wayne. Damian Wayne is a guy who I will say publicly got cheated out of getting in that NWA World Championship picture on more than one occasion. Wow. I would love to see him wrestle Trevor Murdoch. I think that match would draw serious money to anybody who's listening. I would pay to watch that match. So those two are two of my favorites to call. Kincaid, because he's very innovative. If nobody's ever watched Jason Kincaid before, I highly encourage you to do your research. Caribbean Tiger I like. Caribbean Tiger is a new one that I've started to like. Victor Andrews, because of Vic being everywhere. Right. So those are some of the 4.
Yeah, I interviewed Caribbean Tiger on here, and I got I just love the guy from beginning to end. The whole interview was awesome. And it wasn't shortly thereafter he sent me a autographed picture and a few other things in the mail, which I thought was totally awesome. But we do have a question. Missy Childers wants to know, do you know Eddie Golden or Stan Lee?
I do not know Eddie Golden, but I definitely know Stan the Man Lee. Stan has actually booked me a couple of times for All-Star Wrestling. And in fact, I just did a fair a couple of months ago. It was Boogie Woogie Man's last event in Virginia. And Stan and I go way back. He uses me whenever he can. Running in Virginia is a real pain in the butt from what I've been told because it's a commission state. So the shows are
sort of like South Carolina. So
yeah. Because somebody said, "Hey, do you want to come ring announce in South Carolina?" And this was like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, "Don't I have to get licensed?" Yeah. I'm like, I don't know if I can get the license that fast. So, but yeah, I know Stan. I don't know Eddie Golden though.
Okay. Bruce said, I know about Stroh. He calls me a friend too. Talk to him all the time. There you go.
Yep.
And Missy said, yes, he is awesome.
Yeah. Stan is a great guy. Stan is always willing to use me. In fact, and Stan also tries to help me in ways like he will actually have all the wrestlers' information before I show up. Usually I'm the one going around collecting the monikers, hometowns, and weights and all such, because I figure everybody else is busy and doing that. So, but no, Stan has always done that for me, and I've deeply appreciated that.
Oh, that is totally awesome. I love that. Now you've gotten into the business.
Mhm.
How did you become the voice? I want to hear this story.
Because I got engaged and I got punished for it.
Okay.
Okay, so here's what happened. I got engaged to my wife in 2010. And I called the promoter and said it was a Mother's Day weekend, and we had not told her mom yet because we were given a big surprise so we could tell her in person. And the promoter was upset because the other commentator was going to have to work his legitimate job because it was a forced schedule, and the promoter got mad and hung up on me. Yeah, and that took about 2 weeks to come back. I did come back and ran. There was a new broadcast team, and then I met the person who would probably be my most well-known broadcast partner, the Outlaw Rockstar Steven Hensley.
Okay.
Steve and I worked for 12 to 18 months together, and he was coming up with all these monikers for all the guys. And he came up with mine, which was the Voice of Tradition, because he could see that I was modeling my style after Russell and Cottle and try to Mercer a little bit solely. So it's all an amalgamation there. So that's where that comes from. It's
that is my favorite. I have to tell you, you just mentioned my favorite announcer of all time, Gordon Soley. That hands down. I watched Continental Championship Wrestling growing up, and that was my favorite show. And all my favorite wrestlers came from that show. So yeah, when you said Soley, that perked the ears right up.
Well, and I know in your geographic region, Bob Cottle was always a big name as well.
Yes, very much so.
So yeah, I still watch Bob Cottle to this day to pick up pointers.
Oh yes.
So that's how the Voice of Tradition came and stuck, because Steve saw something in me, because we had the best banter. We argued like an old married couple. I mean,
and that's good online. And I mean, not online, but that's good for a show because that entertains. Not only is the wrestling entertaining, but then the commentary is entertaining. It's not just, you calling the matches and the other guy maybe agreeing with you or whatever. It's fun. And that's when, you got a good, what word am I looking for?
Chemistry.
Yeah. I mean, when you got a great chemistry, it all flows. The show sounds good. You guys are, going back and forth. Everybody's entertained. I love listening to a show like that.
The best compliment I ever got about me and Steve's work was from a former NWA U.S. Tag Champion. I think it was U.S. I might be wrong in that. And that was Ron Sexton. Ron Sexton was coming in with other guys from Tennessee. For those of you who don't know, I encourage you to look up Ron Sexton on YouTube. And Ron said, I love you two guys. You sound exactly like Gorilla and Bobby did. And
right?
I was almost moved to tears. I was. Wow. And I've talked Steve out of retirement twice to work with me. Once in AWF Mid-Atlantic, where in Princeton, he was a secret surprise that evening and got a standing ovation. So kind of killed his heat right away. But no, they loved him. And then the other time was most recently is Ring Wars Carolina.
Nice.
And him and I travel for that. I know that kind of lets the genie out of the bottle, but I mean, we all know what it is nowadays.
Right.
But the chemistry is unbelievable. And I mean, from the time we were picking up around episode 220 in Mountain State till it ended, to about the time we both got hired in AIWF Mid-Atlantic, to now in Ring Wars Carolina, and this goes back to one of my favorite matches. This match has not made air yet. It's Alpha Ace versus EC3. And with Alpha Ace and EC3, it was me, Steve, and Mr. Magnificent. But Mr. Magnificent kind of throttled back, and you get to see that banter between myself and Steve in there.
Wow. I love that stuff, man. That is cool. And So let me ask you a question. Going back again, you were talking about all the stuff you had done to prepare yourself to be, an anchor of some kind, a voice of some kind.
Right.
Um, Tell everybody again what you did to prepare yourself to go out and be a commentator and have all the qualifications.
Okay, first of all, if you go back and find my first couple episodes and you watch them, let me start by saying I'm sorry because we all know how that was. To get better, it was a lot of what I guess the 10,000 hour rule. You just have to do it and over again. But there were two guys in Mountain State Wrestling that really helped. One was Stroh, another man was the name of J.C. Dykes Jr. They taught me how to look for certain things. They taught me not only to call the match that was going on, but toss it to, hey, don't forget, stay tuned for so-and-so in the main event, or talk about the previous match, how to toss to commercial, how to come back from commercial. So that really helped. A lot of it was just studying. I remember, gosh, what year was it? I can't even remember now. I'd have to look through my binder. I went to a Dustin Road seminar, and he said, study Shivani. So I have, yeah. So I study him now. I still study guys. I'm still trying to find that cadence. Now it's a little different now because obviously you have to look at different styles and such. Right. But that's how I prepared. It's just repetition. I go back and watch the old matches that I did on Mountain State Wrestling, mute them, and myself and the other podcast partner at the time, who was not Steven, would come over and we go, okay, we missed that. We should have said this. And that, just getting that cadence down helped me get better quickly.
Okay. Have you ever, okay, I know you like calling matches, but you said you also interview. Yeah. Have you ever had an interview that just threw you? That just somebody like just did something like you wasn't expecting and kind of, where's this interview going now?
You know what? No, luckily I haven't. I will tell you, okay, it wasn't where the interview was going now. It was the fact that I had to interview the same guy 4 weeks in a row for one taping. But it was important. We were taping Mountain State Wrestling probably like 4 shows, I think, that day. Or 3, I can't remember. And the booker came up to me. It's like, hey, you're going to interview so-and-so. Oh, I'm sorry about that. You're going to do that multiple times during the day.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, why? Well, this guy had just been on WWE television, tried to cut a promo, and got the feedback. The only thing he needed to work on was his promos. So you laugh, but yeah, they were like, dude, you got.
Oh my gosh,
you got to work on it. And the booker knew that, and the guy came to him. So we did. I mean, every time he was there, I interviewed him anywhere from 3 to 4 times, and it must have paid off because Chase Owens is on New Japan now.
There you go.
And not having to worry about being Kevin Bendel again. Thomas Scott.
Thomas Scott said hello.
Yeah, Thomas Scott gave me, like I said, when you had him on, gave me the best advice I ever had.
Well, let's hear that story. Let me go to a quick commercial, and we're going to come back, and then you can tell us what Thomas Scott told you that was the greatest thing. Let me find it here. All right, here we go. We'll be right back after this message, and we're going to hear what Thomas Scott told him.
L&L Fence Company, specializing in custom fencing from wood and aluminum to chain link. 9331 Albemarle Road in Charlotte, North Carolina. Give them a call today for your free estimate. 704-563-9544. L&L Fence Company, the king in custom fencing.
All right, we're back with Jonathan Darwin, and just before the break, we were talking to him about Thomas Scott, who had just come on.
Yeah, all right, so Thomas and I met by accident, actually. So you got to know that story to get to the next story. They had a need for a ring announcer at one of their training school events, which I think was Titan Wrestling at the time.
Yes.
And I ended up going and doing Titan, and then got booked again because they needed somebody for an outdoor event they were holding where it was Ricky Morton and George South on the show. It was a community center thing. It was also the day before my NWA scouting in Lumberton, North Carolina. And I was really lacking the self-confidence. I'm like, I don't know if I have it. I don't think it. So when I went to talk to Scott at the end of the night to get my money, which I was grateful for because it helped pay for the hotel room, so I could subsidize that cost and not have to travel very early the next morning.
Right.
He could see I was physically upset at myself, and I'm like, dude, I could. And he's looked at me and he's like, look, the biggest enemy you have is right between your ears.
Yep.
You got it. I wouldn't be booking you if you didn't have it. You have it. And that confidence booster was the one I needed that helped me really do well for that scouting the next day for Ring Wars Carolina when Baby Hefner was there.
Nice. See, I love that. I love that. And I worked for Titan around that time. So I know it was a good company, and I know Thomas Scott is a great guy. I've worked with him many times. Very, very, he calls me all the time, and we talk, and he gives me great advice all the time. So
yeah, he's a great guy. Really guy.
Without a doubt. I love him dearly. He's a good friend.
Okay. So let's see here. Let's talk about the matches. Let's get back to that because I took notes earlier.
Okay.
So
I must apologize if you guys see lights flickering. I've got a light up here on my desk, and apparently it's going out. It's flickering. So if you see a flicker of light, that's what's going on. Go ahead.
Hey, that's okay. All right. So let's talk about at least 2 of the 3 matches you can actually watch online right now. Okay. That are my favorites. One was for what at the time was NWA Smoky Mountain, which is now Innovate Wrestling.
Okay.
That was Jack Stane versus the human action figure Ali Shabazz.
Okay.
And if you go to Innovate Wrestling, if you look for the episode of November 1st, 2014, at about the 4-minute and 30-second mark is where it started. That match is so good and it stood the test of time. I will say this, and people are going to think I'm crazy. I would put that match up against major 3-letter companies today as a good match. That it's 7 years later. That match is still good. Tony Givens and I did really well. Jack Stane and Ali Shabazz had a flawless match. It's still one of my favorites to watch. It's probably going to go on my demo reel, even though it's that old, but it's still that good.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. I would love to see that match. I'm going to go and check that out.
Yeah, Innovate Wrestling, November 1st, 2014. My best solo was, and one of my favorite solos, because I just was on all cylinders that night, Ring Wars Carolina, episode 14. It was the opening match, The Monster, Brad Branson versus Alpha Ace, which was not supposed to happen. They had a last minute cancellation, which is why Alpha Ace had to fill in. That match was also not supposed to make air. It was filmed as what you would call a dark match.
Dark match, right?
Yeah. And the show ended up running short, so they had no choice but to put it in. And I will tell you, that is one of my most flawless solo commentaries. It also shows my hosting ability really well at the beginning of the show with Mr. Magnificent. And that was the episode that I sent to Caprice Coleman as well as Bill Apter to watch.
Nice.
Yeah. And then, of course, Alpha Ace versus EC3, which we talked about. And another match that hasn't made air, which I did with Victor Andrews, was Caribbean Tiger versus Damian Wayne for the AIWF World's Heavyweight Championship.
Oh, I would love to see that.
Oh, my gosh. They tore it down that night. They tore it down. They told a good story. If you're a wrestler and you want to learn how to tell a good story without having to take a lot of bumps, when that match airs, watch my Facebook page. I will post it. That is our plan.
Nice.
Yes.
I will definitely do that.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Mm-hmm. Thomas Scott said me and Stroh was trained by the same guy, Nelson Royal.
I didn't know that.
Very good.
I did not know that. So, I'm trying to think what other stories there are that we haven't really delved into that have been interesting.
So, have you ever again, I'll do it with the commentary. Have you ever been commentating a wrestling match and something just went horribly wrong or something?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Unbreakable Drew Thomas versus Victor and Mr. Everything Victor Andrews, Ring Wars Carolina. Thomas was coming back from a knee injury. He's like, I got it. You don't have it,
He
kid.
didn't have it.
He blew that match was supposed to go 10-12. He blew his knee out at minute 4.
Wow.
So they had to stop it. They had to put up the X. Victor grabbed the microphone and cut a good promo to fill that slot. But yeah, that was one we were not expecting. And that was tough to call. Now, there's other matches I've called that are really sleeper matches of people that are out there.
Have you ever called a match that was just and it happens, so wrestlers out there, don't kill me for asking this question, but have you ever called a match that just, oh my gosh, from beginning to end was just horrible?
Yeah.
It just it was a dumpster fire from the beginning.
Yeah, I would hate to say the names, but it was people that had just finished training or were still in the middle of training that had no business being in front of a television audience. I've done at least 3 of those, but I don't want to embarrass anybody because a lot of them have become well since then. It's just sometimes talent is rushed on television, and you know that.
Yes, sir.
Talent can be pushed too far too soon. So while Scott's trying to gain his composure back there, I will be happy to tell you about some of the other names that I've actually called that are making waves out there right now. And episode 250 of Mountain State Wrestling, I had the privilege of calling the Baronis brothers, who were known as the Boys in Ring of Honor. For a couple of other episodes of Mountain State Wrestling, I ended up calling several matches with Eric Darkstorm, who is now one half of the Ohio Valley Wrestling Tag Team Champions. I've introduced him and his partner D-Get Bundles at Premier Wrestling League Mid-Atlantic on multiple occasions. And then at least, let's see, once I ring announced him, once I got a chance to ride with him, and once I got a chance to call one of his matches, and that's Scrap Iron Adam Pierce. And I can't wait to tell Scott about that story when he comes back, as soon as he does. And I wish I could see your comments so I could actually add to the conversation. So while we're waiting for Scott to find his way back, let me tell you about some of the things that I do to keep myself well prepared today. So let's take a look here. This is what I call the big book. This is about a 2.5 inch to 3 inch binder that I have that has a variety of information in it. I have where to send matches for Pro Wrestling Report. I have rosters here. I have Excel spreadsheets for promotions that I have worked for and do work for, so I don't have to ask the talent multiple times, hey, where are you from? Hey, what's your moniker? Hey, who's that manager with you? I have all of that in Excel spreadsheets, and that goes a long way with talent to be able to keep track of that. And then when we look at it further, I have other advice in here and notes that I've taken, but you get to this section here where you start with Ring Wars Carolina. And in here right now, I have Ring Wars Carolina. I have World Fighting Showcase. I have Premier Wrestling League Alliance. I have International Combat Sports, AIWF Mid-Atlantic, and Innovate Wrestling. Here's why that's important. With Innovate Wrestling, I end up, and AIWF Mid-Atlantic as well, calling matches for a young man by the name of Axton Ray. And with Axton Ray, I kept those notes, not because I knew something, but just because I'm one of those people, when I have wrestling documentation, I hold on to it because you never know when you're going to need it again. And 3 months ago, I'm at International Combat Sports, and lo and behold, who shows up but Axton Ray? I'm out there. I'm doing, I believe, play-by-play. The other guy was color that night, and before the match starts, he looks at me and goes, I have no idea who this kid is. I know nothing, absolutely nothing about it. I got you, dog. So that really was helpful. I got notes for guys that I haven't seen in years. I got notes on, let's see here. I got notes on Justin Flash. I got notes on, let's see, who are all the good guys down there? AIWF Mid-Atlantic. We can review. I got notes on James Anthony. We'll talk about him in just a moment and how I got to. He was the actual one who got me into Ring Wars Carolina, which was absolutely great. I got notes on Sim Crowley, who I'm going to see later this month. I got notes on, gosh, who is it? James Allen, Cameron Cade, Zane Wolf, Timmy Lillette. I mean, just guys that I haven't seen in years. Kevin Phoenix is another one. But those all come back into play. So let's talk about now how I ended up where I'm currently at and doing most of my work, Ring Wars Carolina. James Anthony was doing an AMA, and I thought it would be nice and polite to go on and support him. And we just caught up. And I was telling him about my open heart surgery and how everything went on with that. And he's like, we got to get you down the Ring Wars. We got to get you down the Ring Wars. And we worked it out. Now, originally, when I got there, I was only supposed to be the interviewer. They wanted me for a Mean Gene style segment. And because of that, something happened. I'm going to save that story for when Scott's coming back. But James Anthony is the one who opened the door for me. And I'm eternally grateful for that. And that's some of my advice to talent out there. Be polite to everybody because you never know who's going to open the door for you. Stroh opened the door for me for NWA Mountain State Wrestling. Jason Kincaid opened the door for me to go to NWA Smoky Mountain. I ended up doing a charity show in southern West Virginia, and it led to my tryout with Jakara. And it's an interesting chain of events that happens. So I'm working the charity event, and Tim Dolan is there, and so is TR Superstar and a couple other people. Excuse me. And I'm trying to get booked down in North Carolina because it's only about 2.5 hours away from my home. And Tim Dolan's like, well, we really got me, but you know what? Come down, because TR Superstar just kept nagging this guy. You got to book him. You got to book him. You got to book him. And they ended up booking him, or excuse me, booking me. And I started hitting it off right away. I was doing ring announcing. I was doing interviewing. I was calling some of the matches. Fast forward to a couple months later, the Crazy 8 tournament is happening in Mount Airy, North Carolina. One of the men booked on that show was Shinron, who was working for Chikara at the time, and told me who to get a hold of. You fast forward a few months later, and what happens? Their ring announcer moved to California to follow an entertainment career. And they were holding open tryouts.
Matt Larson fell, and he is injured, so we're going to have to cut this show short.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and hopefully we'll be back again and tell it more later. Best of luck to you, Matt. Hope you recover.
Bye-bye.